So just by way of agenda, I'm going to tell you a quick bit about DCC, Exertis Supply Chain Services, what we do. But more importantly, I want to talk about some of the new initiatives we're seeing in the area of supply chain, how it can help manufacturing. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is give you a few ideas, give you a few thoughts that you can then take away and bring back to your own companies and maybe help enhance your own performance. So, I'm going to flick through these quickly. Just a quick show of hands. Who here has heard of DCC? Okay. DCC is one of the top 5 companies in Ireland with revenue of 17 billion, listed on the London FTSE, but headquartered in Dublin, in Leopardstown. There are 3 core verticals, which are energy, healthcare, and then the third is technology distribution and supply chain, which is Exertis. So some of the companies they would own would be Flowgas, you'd know, Fan and Healthcare, these sort of companies. But Exertis is the manufacturing, technology distribution and supply chain division of DCC. Some of the clients, you'll recognize those logos. You'll see they all come from a diverse background of industry sectors, from manufacturing to technology to pharma to life science, industrial. But they all have a couple of things in common. The first is that they invest heavily in supply chain. They recognize the value of supply chain and how supply chain can help keep them ahead of their competitors. And for that reason, that's why they are leaders in their respective fields. In terms of our footprint, you can see the presence we have at the moment globally. Exertis grows through acquisition. We've recently purchased a couple of companies in the States called Stampede and Jam. We are not a 3PL. It's important to emphasize that. We partner with the likes of DSV, Siva, Kuehne+Nagel, Crane Worldwide. So where we need space, where we need 3PL support, we partner with these companies and use the space only as and when we need it. That helps us keep our models lean and efficient. Mike, is the volume?
For companies operating in any sector, managing material supply chains can often become an overly complex and challenging juggling act. When you add in the additional squeeze created by changing customer requirements, higher costs of materials, longer lead times, and pressures from low-cost competitors, it's understandable why a growing number of companies are looking to professional materials supply chain managers for a solution. And as a market leader, Exertis Supply Chain Services has the expertise to optimize the level of cost, capital, and complexity in your materials supply chain, freeing up your time and resources to focus on the critical activities that create real value for your business. We can offer an integrated end-to-end service, providing everything from material sourcing and procurement, inventory management, financing, warehousing, and fulfillment. We will reduce your costs through the efficient and precise management of your materials procurement activities. This includes managing your approved vendor list, handling your day-to-day purchases, order processing and invoicing, inventory management, and quality control. As you well know, inventory ties up capital that can be much better spent on business growth activities. Through our expert people, systems and processes, financial resources, and international logistics partnerships, we offer efficiency-maximizing solutions, such as vendor-managed inventory and just-in-time delivery, which allows you to delay paying for materials until the point of consumption. By partnering with us, we will significantly reduce your supply chain complexity. For example, where you previously had to manage invoices and purchase orders from a multitude of suppliers, this can all be consolidated into a single invoice from Exertis Supply Chain Services. To find out more about how Exertis Supply Chain Services can convert the juggling act into a simple solution, take a more detailed look at our website or make contact with us directly to arrange a no-obligation consultation with one of our materials supply chain experts.
That saved about 20 slides, you'll be glad to hear. So, the 3 core areas that we focus on in terms of supply chain and manufacturing are cost, capital, and complexity. this is true regardless of the industry, regardless of the sector that you're involved in. So cost has always been an area that you continue to focus on. So that's the cost of your materials, the cost of your freight, the cost of your warehousing, and that still continues today. The focus, however, is now changing to the capital. That's the amount of cash and money that you have tied up in inventory in your supply chain. So many of you are purchasing from Asia, from India, from Brazil, bringing material into Europe, bringing it into Ireland, the UK, or the States. You end up financing this for 12, 14, 16 weeks. That has a huge strain on your capital and your cash. So there are models out there that can help bypass that, free up your capital, but still make the material available. And then the last is the complexity. So again, many of you will be dealing with hundreds of suppliers, thousands of SKUs. It's a very difficult process to purchase them from various points globally and have them ready for production in Waterford or Cork or Dublin, allowing for those lead times, allowing for the various volume suppliers, the different compliance, different duties, different tax issues. There's a huge amount of time trying to manage all this, and is that time well spent? So there is a calculation, it's the 80-20 rule, that typically a supply chain organization will spend 80% of your time managing 20% of your spend. That's the nuts, the bolts, the labels, the boxes. They're all critical, they're all crucial, but is that your time well spent? If you can free that up and then focus on your A and B parts, that's where you'll get your real savings from. So what are we faced with? The now generation is driving us to have to act quicker, faster, more leaner. They expect everything now, they expect it immediately. That is putting pressure on us to have our products manufactured immediately or have the material available. There's two ways of doing that. You either bring in the stock and sit on it and hold it and finance it, or you try and have a leaner model that can help you react. So this has led to a change in terms of where the focus is. So traditionally the focus would have been on the material costs, the fulfillment costs, the freight costs, and that is still valid. But now the trend is shifting towards reducing the amount of inventory we're trying to hold, but still be able to react, and also releasing the cash tied up in the supply chain. So you may be aware of the logo there. Your sales is vanity, profits is sanity, cash is reality. That is now the real driver, is to free up cash that's tied up in your inventory, because that cash can then be deployed elsewhere. It can be R&D, it can be marketing, it can be recruitment. These are, I'm not sure if this point is working. I'm not sure what industries you come from. Maybe some of your industries are up here. But industries are now measuring themselves in terms of the amount of inventory they have and the working capital they have tied up in that inventory. And that is now becoming a huge focus for your financial directors and your CFOs. So what are some of the models that can help address this? And I'm flying through these quickly, guys. The first is called managing the tail. So if you have a manufacturing organization, you have several hundred suppliers, thousands of SKUs coming from various parts of the globe. Going back to what I said earlier, where's your time best spent? If you could free up some of your resources, some of your purchasing team's time to focus on your A and B parts, how much more productive will that be? Your A and B parts are your high value parts, you focus on them, that's where you get your savings. So the likes of in Ireland, they basically cut off the tail. They cut off 200 suppliers, they hand them to a supply chain expert and say, manage them on our behalf. Purchase them at our contract price, bring them in, hold them either in our facility or a 3PL beside us, feed them to the line as we need them, and then they only pay for them as you consume them. That then frees up their team, which was previously stretched, to be able to focus on the A and B parts. So I said, we've been doing this for the past 30 years. More recently, the industrial companies like have been doing it across Europe now and in the States. So some of the tools quickly that we see can help. Price matching. So I don't know what your ERP is. We use SAP. So if you have 3 or 4 suppliers for the same component, how often do you actually price match against those components? A lot of the time, you're just so keen to get the order placed and pass it on, you're dealing with the same supplier all the time. Do you ever stop and look and see, well, have things changed? Have the alternative suppliers reduced their price? Are you actually paying the best price for those components? So there are tools that can manage that for you, can update it regularly, so you're aware of the best, lowest price that you can get. key one is distributor bypass. Many of you might be purchasing from distributors, which are good. They bring in the stock, they hold it for you, you know it's there, you want it. But typically distributors will put 20% in a part, 30% in a part. There are models now where the supply chain companies will bypass the distributor, go direct to the manufacturer, bring that stock in, hold it, feed it to you as you need it, but those companies might only be charging 7 or 8%. So straight away you've saved 13%. So this is becoming very relevant in the pharma and the life science space. Lead time maintenance. One of the things we come across most frequently when we engage with new companies is they give us their list of suppliers and the lead times. They may not have checked those lead times for 12 months, 14 months, but that's the lead time that's down on the system. That's what they plug in, that's when they're placing their orders, that's what they allow for. How often has that changed? And suddenly you find yourself, you're not getting the stock in time because you haven't updated the system to reflect the latest lead time. So again, using tools like SAP, that can be updated automatically to make sure you allow for any changes or any variances to make sure you get the stock in on time. And then probably one of the last things, and something that's probably close to your heart, is culprit management. How many of you deal with suppliers who constantly let you down? You're constantly having problems with. This is the supplier that's always mentioned in the production room meeting every Monday morning, yet we're still dealing with them. You've got to get into the habit of cutting them, making sure you have an alternative supplier, because that's not productive time if you're wasting too much time having to manage that repeat offender. So again, I'll just fly through these because of time. This was a project we did with an oil and gas company in the States, applying those tools like price matching, vendor consolidation, distributor bypass, lead time maintenance, and culprit management. You can see the savings that were delivered. They're real savings. They're tangible dollar, euro, pound savings. So, just moving on to some of the things and trends that we're seeing in terms of supply chain. Many of you are aware of the traffic situations that we experience in Dublin. It's the same in cities around the globe. The trend is moving towards electric. So every city is trying to keep 40 foot out of their city due to traffic, congestion, pollution, and safety. So we're now seeing a trend where deliveries have to be broken down outside the cities and then fed into the cities. You've got congestion charges like London, Milan, or the cities. They'll all become the norm. So everything is going to move towards electric, and a lot of the large 3PLs are already investing in this. One of the other things we're seeing, it's a model that DHL developed, basically using the public as couriers. So if you think of a station where the material comes in, deliveries have to be made, one central pickup station, that could be on your way home as you're going to the particular location or your job. So now they have models in the States and in Europe where you can actually pick up a parcel on your way home, drop it off. So they're really trying to reduce the number of vans, trucks, vehicles, and use the public as couriers. And then one of the last things we're seeing is the whole area of driver shortages. So again, this is nothing new. It's probably as a result of the property boom and bust. A lot of the drivers that would have been in the logistics industry, we've lost. They've gone to Australia, they've gone to Canada, and they're not coming back. The average age of a driver in Ireland now, I think, is something like 58. So there's a key focus and a key move to try and improve the situation. So companies like Kuehne+Nagel are now no longer waiting for educational projects to help. They're investing in this themselves. They have their own apprenticeship programs to make sure that we have those people able to continue the supply chain activities and continue the logistics. So just a couple of areas I want to get onto then in terms of new models you may have heard of. How many of you have heard of vested interest? Okay. You've heard of the 4PL model? So basically the vested interest is like a 4PL with Windows. So if I give you an example, a project that we did with graded their 2 fabrication plants in Kildare a couple of years ago. and they're basically gutting the fabrication plants, which meant new clean room facilities. So they had to bring in new exhaust extraction systems to be able to facilitate this. Previously, they would have dealt with half a dozen engineering companies and tried to manage them to make sure all the materials come in at the right time. That was passed over to us. So we managed the engineering companies. We picked up the parts in the States or Asia. We brought them into DSV and NACE at the time. We held the material, and then on a daily basis, we would pick that material and feed it to coincide with the engineering fit-out program. And they obviously just paid for it as it turned up. So in that vested interest model, we were taking responsibility for all the activity. Everything stopped with us, but they had clear visibility of everything that was happening at every step in the way. If anything, if we improved on any of the lead times, we got a share of some of those savings. If we delayed or caused a problem, we had to pass it back to them. So that's an example of vested interest, where a supply chain company is taking responsibility for all the key activities, and if there is an improvement or a delay, then that gain or that loss is shared between the two companies. So it is a true partnership, and it's something that's becoming more popular. The other then is blockchain. Hands up, you've heard of blockchain? Okay, so it came out of the Bitcoin. And effectively what this is, it's a ledger. It's basically a supply chain ledger. So if you think of the manufacturing company in Asia, through to the freight company, through to the warehousing company, through to the delivery company, through to manufacturing, they're all different stages in supply chain. What blockchain is everybody buys into full transparency. So every step in that process, as they're producing something, delivering something, holding it in a warehouse, they sign up to it and they report into that ledger. So everybody involved in that supply chain has full visibility of it. You can see if something is coming down the tracks, if there's going to be a problem, but everybody is committed to the success of the supply chain. It's an ideal scenario, but it's difficult to get everybody to buy into it. But if you can get your key partners to buy into it, it's an expression of their commitment to you as an end customer. I'm going to bypass these because I've just got the warning from Gemma. I'll bypass this. Our old favorite. I'm sure in a lot of the presentations, Brexit has come up. And the reality is nobody has an answer, and I'm not going to stand here and say I have an answer either. But the one thing that I say will happen is the third point down, business will find a solution. And one of the great examples I like of this is anybody involved in Connacht rugby. No? Anybody from Galway? There's a great story, and I hope it's true because it's brilliant. When Connacht first start playing their early rugby matches in the Pro 14, they play in the Greyhound racing track. Right? So in the first match, they had 1,000 thirsty fans ready to watch the game and have a few beers. The local policeman said, "Sorry, you can't serve any alcohol here because the license belongs to the Greyhound track." So again, business finds a solution. The quick thinking man said, "Well, does it have to be greyhounds that race?" The policeman said, "No." So 2 Jack Russells were quickly produced, sent down the track. Policeman was happy, the bar was opened, and business found a way. Now, I hope it's great, I hope it's true. But the same applies to Brexit. The problem with Brexit is nobody knows the starting point. Everybody is waiting to understand what's the scope, what's the rules. And when we know them, then business will find a solution. But what is happening at the moment is a couple of things. Companies are beginning to stockpile. So I mentioned we have a customer. They're in Craigavon, they're in Europe, in the States. To protect themselves, they're starting to bring in a lot of material because they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if it's going to cost more if a new tariff is applied to it. So they're taking that risk of bringing that material in, but that's hurting them on the balance sheet because they have to finance that. The other thing we're seeing with the logistics companies is the UK is still a huge market. Many brands still want to be there, but they won't necessarily want to keep their stock there because they don't know it's going to cost more to keep it there. They don't know what access is going to be like. The next best solution is here. So already the large 3PLs that I mentioned earlier are investing in space, looking at facilities, seeing how quickly they can get these set up, because there is a feeling now that, like all the office space that the finance houses came to Dublin, the feeling is that a lot of warehouse storage activity is going to move from the UK into Ireland. So I think, I don't know why I did my poster. So am I okay in 20 minutes? So, okay, listen, that's it. I hope that gave you a few ideas, some food for thought. If you have any questions, Steve and I are on stand P11, and enjoy the rest of the show.